So today we're going to be taking a look at how NATO would respond to a US invasion of Canada. So we've had a buildup of US forces on the Canadian border, around 200,000 at this point. So over here near British Columbia, some over here in Minnesota, Michigan, and then all across New England. And then of course we have US forces over here in Alaska, which was annexed by the United States in 2014. Now as of now, the US government has said that they won't invade Canada, but it is pretty obvious that they are building up for something, and that something looks like an invasion. Now of course NATO has said that they would respond to a US invasion of Canada. Of course, we have the strongest NATO country, Russia, saying that if the US were to invade Canada, then there would be severe sanctions on the US economy. And then of course, we also have other NATO countries such as Ukraine and Belarus supporting Russia in their sanctioning against the United States if they do so invade. But we also do know that the US has been stationing troops in their ally of the UK. So hypothetically, if war does break out between the US and Canada, we might be able to see the UK getting involved. So just in case any of you aren't aware, this is what the NATO alliance looks like as of 2022. And then of course over here we have the United States, Canada, and then the US ally of the UK. So let's go ahead and play out this scenario and say that the United States declares war on Canada. So right away we would actually have just an area that will look like this. Of course in the red we have the United States, and then in these kind of annexed area colors we have areas that are under US control. And then of course we have Alberta, which is a breakaway region of Canada. It is a heavy pro-American area, and assuming that this war takes place, they would most likely want to break away and join the United States. Now it would be interesting to see how Mexico would react to this, because back in 2008 we obviously had the United States taking areas from Mexico. I don't think they would get involved in this war, but I do think they would influence it. But anyway, now that the United States has started their invasion of Canada, how would NATO react? Now, knowing that the NATO countries have said that they wouldn't really do much if Russia did invade, well, they didn't say that, but they didn't say they would get involved. You know, individual countries that came out and said that they would not get involved in a US-Canadian war. So the thing that we would most likely see is just sanctions, a majority of which would become from Russia on the US government, and they do so. Now, the countries have stated that these sanctions will be some of the toughest throughout history. And we are seeing that just now. So the Russians are sanctioning the Americans, and it is some brutal sanctions. We have a lot of companies withdrawing from the United States, which hurts the US economy greatly, but it also hurts the world economy. And yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at the front lines over here in Canada. So first off, we have US troops finally crossing into Canada, and then overall we have strikes going all over major Canadian cities. So we have American troops mainly just doing spearheads across Canada, and obviously the goal is to cut off supply and then take over Canadian cities. Most notably, a few weeks into the invasion, we have the first fall of a major Canadian city, which is Toronto. And with that, we have the Americans being able to push towards Ottawa. Now, Ottawa lies about here, and American troops have pretty much surrounded it. But moving on back from that, let's go ahead and take a look at how this looks throughout the Canadian country. Over in the east, we have the American troops pushing off and cutting off large areas of Canada. We see the siege of Montreal, which is an encircled city over here in Quebec. Over in the west, we see the capturing of Vancouver Island and a cutoff of British Columbia from the rest of Canada. So obviously we see the Americans having a lot of success in Canada, but it really isn't going as planned for them. By this time, they had already anticipated to capture Ottawa, but due to Canada being supplied by NATO, they really aren't getting as far as they wish. And of course, the sanctions are having a heavy toll on the US economy, which doesn't really slow down the war economy, but it does affect the citizens of the country. And we see a mass amount of protests in the States. Skipping on ahead into the future, we eventually see some major gains made by the US. We have the capturing of all of British Columbia and a majority of the southern territorial areas. We still see Ottawa still holding on, and we still see the encirclement of Montreal. But we do see the spearhead poking out, and eventually it will cut off Quebec. And overall, it really isn't looking too good for the Canadians in the future, although morale in Canada is super high, and it is most likely that we would never see the Canadian government surrender. Eventually, American plans are stalled, and the US is unable to continue in Canada due to lack of planning, lack of supply, and lack of morale. Due to this, we do see a Canadian counter-invasion, which pushes back the spearhead in Quebec. It also pushes back convoys around Ottawa and regains access to Lake Huron. So yeah, this is what the American invasion of Canada might look like in real life. Now obviously they haven't started their invasion yet. Personally, I'm not really sure if they would invade Canada, but it is a possibility. Once again, we were seeing those buildup of troops on the Canadian border, so this is completely possible. We might see this break out in the next couple of weeks, months, days, years. I don't know. And of course, the most interesting thing to factor in would be NATO. I'm not really sure if NATO would get involved in this war. Obviously, the military wouldn't, but economically, yes. Volunteers, maybe. Special forces, I don't know. I doubt a single NATO troop would set foot in Canada, though. So yeah, this is my prediction to as how NATO would respond to a US invasion of Canada. And yeah, So tell me what you guys think in the comments about this war and how it might break out, and if it could even cause World War III. I highly doubt it would, but it is completely possible. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you guys want to see more US-Canada predictions in the future, let me know in the comments. And yes, once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.